I can still hear the clinking of glasses and the low hum of her family's laughter in that crowded room. We were all sitting around the dinner table, plates piled high, the scent of roasted vegetables and fresh bread filling the air. Everyone looked happy, except me. I was trying so hard to blend in, to keep the anxiety from bubbling over. You see, I've always been a bit of a nervous guy. Overthink everything. Wonder if I'm enough. That night, I wanted to disappear. Then she spoke, not loudly, but with a calm, almost careless tone that stabbed through the noise like a knife. You know, it's funny. I never thought I'd end up here with you. The room went quiet. Her words hung in the air heavier than the candlelight. I blinked, trying to understand what she meant. Was it a joke? Sarcasm? Something worse? I mean, after everything, she continued, her eyes locked on mine. Sometimes I wonder if you ever really saw me at all. My throat tightened. The laughter stopped, replaced by a tension so thick I could taste it. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words got caught in my chest. And then she said the thing that shattered my world. I've been keeping secrets from you, things you'd never expect. Maybe it's time you left. I didn't think. I just stood up, heart pounding, head spinning, and walked out of that house. The last thing I heard was her soft, almost indifferent whisper, "Goodbye." I didn't know where I was going when I left. The night air hit me like a cold slap, but I barely noticed. My mind was racing, tangled with questions and doubts. What secrets had she been hiding? How long had she been living a lie? Every step I took felt heavier than the last, as if the ground itself was trying to pull me down into some dark hole of despair. I tried calling her on the way home, but it went straight to voicemail. I stared at my phone like it was some cruel joke. The messages I left were messy, desperate, filled with things I barely recognized as my own words. Please explain. I don't understand. Are you really saying goodbye? But there was no answer. Just silence. When I finally got back to our apartment, it felt like a stranger's place. The lights were off, the air stale. I sat on the couch, heart pounding, and stared at the empty space where she should have been. I wanted to believe this was some kind of nightmare I'd wake up from. But deep down, I feared this was reality. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Just a few lines written in her neat handwriting. I'm sorry, Ansel. This isn't how I wanted things to end. But I can't keep pretending. I need to find myself again, and maybe that means without you. My hands shook as I read it. Was this really happening? Had the woman I loved disappeared right in front of me? I felt broken, confused, and utterly alone. But the worst part was the nagging feeling that there was more to this story, things she wasn't telling me, secrets buried so deep that I might never uncover them. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there, replaying that dinner, her words echoing in my mind, knowing that something inside me had snapped. And somewhere, far away from me, she was starting a new chapter, without me. The next morning, I woke up still clutching that note in my hand, feeling like I had been hit by a truck. I wanted answers, but the silence from Marin was deafening. I stared at my phone, waiting for a message, a call, anything. Instead, what came next shattered any hope I had left. It started with a single text from an unknown number. At first, I thought it might be a mistake. The message read, "You don't know the half of it." My heart skipped, confusion flooding me. Who is this? Why now? I hesitated but replied, "Who is this? What are you talking about?" The response was almost immediate. "Check her phone. You'll see." I froze. I wasn't sure if this was some sick joke or the truth. But something inside me pushed me to act. I remembered that Marin had left her phone on the kitchen table. I sat down, hands trembling as I unlocked it. There were no messages or calls that stood out, at least not at first glance. But then I found something buried deep, a folder labeled "Don't Open." My mind screamed to put the phone down, but I couldn't stop myself. Inside the folder were photos and messages, secret conversations with someone I didn't know. Pictures of Marin smiling with a man I'd never met, texts filled with words that weren't meant for me. "I can't wait to see you again. It's getting harder to keep this from him. We'll figure it out soon." I dropped the phone as if it burned my hands. My chest tightened, breaths coming in short gasps. The woman I thought I knew had been living a double life. And somehow, I was the last to know. The anonymous texter sent one last message before going silent. "There's more. Be careful." I didn't sleep that night either. Instead, I stared into the dark, wondering how long this had been going on and if Marin even wanted to come back. My mind raced with terrible possibilities. Who was this other man? What did she mean by figuring it out? And more importantly, was there a way back from this? Or was my marriage truly over? The following days were a blur of restless nights and half-formed thoughts. I didn't know who to trust anymore. Not Marin, not the mysterious texter, and most painfully, not even myself. I was trapped in a nightmare where every answer seemed to lead to a darker question. I started digging. I checked her social media, her emails, even her calendar. There were hidden appointments, vague excuses, and a pattern of late-night messages deleted so thoroughly I could barely tell they'd been there. I felt like a detective in my own home, piecing together fragments of a life I no longer understood. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I found myself standing outside a small cafe she used to mention but never brought me to. The windows glowed warmly inside, muffled laughter spilling out into the cooling air. My heart pounded in my chest as I debated whether to go in. What was I hoping to find? Proof? Closure? Or just more pain? I stepped inside. There, sitting at a corner table, was the man from the photos, the one whose name I still didn't know. Marin was laughing with him, carefree in a way she hadn't been with me for months. I wanted to turn and run, but something held me back. Maybe it was the need to see with my own eyes what my mind had already confirmed. I didn't say a word. I just watched. And as I did, the weight of betrayal crashed over me in waves so fierce I thought I might drown. But beneath the anger and heartbreak was a strange, cold clarity. I realized that this wasn't just about a secret affair. It was about everything I'd missed, the distance, the lies, the silence. When Marin finally looked up and caught my gaze, I saw the flicker of shock, maybe guilt, in her eyes. But she didn't come over. She didn't explain. She just kept smiling at him, as if I were already invisible. That night, I sat alone in our apartment, wondering if the woman I loved had ever really been there, or if I had been living with a stranger all along. And I asked myself the hardest question of all. What do you do when the person you trusted most is the one who hurts you the deepest? I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what I saw that night at the cafe. The image of Marin smiling at that man haunted me every waking moment. I kept replaying it in my mind, twisting it over and over, searching for a reason, an excuse, anything that might make sense of the chaos she had thrown me into. But the truth was unbearable. She was gone, even if she was still physically there. So, after days of torment, I decided I had to confront her. I waited until she came home late one night, the kind of late that felt deliberate. The door closed behind her, and the silence in the apartment was suffocating. My heart pounded like a drum, every beat echoing the dread I felt deep in my gut. I said the words I'd been holding back. Who is he, Marin? How long has this been going on? She didn't flinch. Instead, she looked at me like I was a stranger who had wandered into her life by mistake. Her voice was quiet but sharp. You want honesty? Fine. His name is Julian. We met months ago. It started as a distraction, but it became something else. I felt like the floor dropped beneath me. Something else? And what about us? Was any of it real? Her eyes hardened. Maybe it was real to you. But I was lost, Ansel. I needed to feel alive again. You were drowning in your worries, and I was disappearing. I tried to speak, but no words came out. The woman I loved had just admitted to tearing us apart, and all I could do was crumble inside. There was pain, yes, but also a strange relief. Now I knew. Now I could stop guessing. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. I'm not sure I want to come back. The silence that followed was deafening. I realized, in that moment, that this was no longer a story about forgiveness or reconciliation. It was about survival, mine. I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a physical force. You're not sure you want to come back. Those 6 words shattered everything I thought I knew about us. In that instant, the future I'd imagined, the life, the dreams, crumbled into dust. I wanted to scream, to beg, to plead for her to stay. But the truth was, I was too numb, too broken. I realized that our marriage wasn't just fraying at the edges. It was unraveling at the core. The woman I loved wasn't just distant anymore. She was gone. For hours, we sat across from each other, neither of us knowing what to say. I wanted answers. Why Julian? Why keep it secret? Why hurt me like this? But she was closed off, a wall of silence whenever I tried to push deeper. Days passed, and the apartment grew colder. The laughter, the warmth, the connection, all evaporated, leaving only echoes and shadows. I was left alone with my spiraling thoughts and a gnawing fear that maybe I was never enough, that my constant worrying had pushed her away. Then came the phone call I dreaded but somehow expected. It was Julian. His voice was calm, almost smug, and he told me things I wasn't ready to hear, things that cut deeper than any betrayal. He said she was happier with him, that she had found a version of herself she'd lost with me, that the past few months weren't just an affair, but a breaking point for both of them. I hung up, hands trembling. The truth burned through me. This wasn't just about a secret lover. It was about losing the person I thought I could never live without. And as the silence swallowed me whole once more, I knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back. The days after that phone call were the hardest I've ever faced. Our apartment, once a place of comfort, had become a battlefield of silence. Marin barely spoke to me. When she did, her words were clipped and distant, like she was already halfway gone. I was desperate to hold on to whatever thread of us remained, but every effort felt like grasping at smoke. I tried to reach out to her family, hoping to find some kind of support or explanation. But even they seemed to be pulling away, caught between loyalty and the messy truth they were too scared to confront. It felt like I was alone in this collapsing world. At work, I became a ghost, distracted and hollow. My colleagues noticed, but no one could fix what was breaking inside me. Every text, every missed call from Marin was a sharp reminder of the widening chasm between us. One night, I found a message on her phone, sent but never delivered, to Julian. It was a simple line, but it tore me apart. I'm done with this. I need to be free. I felt like my heart had been ripped out. I confronted her, pleading for some sign that she still cared, that she wanted to fight. But she looked at me with tired eyes and whispered, "Ansel, sometimes love isn't enough." That phrase haunted me. I replayed it endlessly, wondering how something so powerful could slip away so quietly. The woman who once promised forever was slipping through my fingers, and no amount of begging or worrying could change that. I was drowning in grief, trapped between hope and despair, knowing that the life I thought I had was vanishing and that I might never get it back. For a long time after everything fell apart, I was lost in a storm of pain and confusion. The silence between Marin and me felt endless, and the space she left behind was unbearable. But sometimes, the darkest moments force us to look inside ourselves and find strength we didn't know we had. In the weeks that followed, I started focusing on me, not the anxious, overthinking man who chased after a fading love, but the Ansel who deserved peace and happiness. I reached out to old friends, went for long runs, and began writing again, pouring my thoughts onto paper like a lifeline. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I wanted to give up, to sink into the sorrow. But slowly, with every small step, I felt something shift inside me. I realized that sometimes love means knowing when to let go, not with bitterness, but with hope. Marin and I didn't get back together. We both needed different things. But I'm not bitter anymore. Instead, I'm grateful for the lessons about trust, about letting go, and about the importance of loving myself first. Now, I wake up each day with a little more clarity and a little more peace. I'm learning to build a new life, one that's mine to shape. And maybe someday, when the time is right, I'll find love again, a love that's stronger, truer, and built on a foundation of honesty. For now, I'm okay with being alone, because sometimes the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself.